So there's nothing that companies hate more than when their employees have subpar work-life balance or mental health issues or, misspoke. There is nothing companies hate more than when their employees work from home. They fucking cannot stand it. They don't mind when their employees are depressed at work. They don't mind when they're having panic attacks at their desks, just so long as their employees are at work and at their desks. Don't believe me? Well, let's hear it from some of America's high-powered CEOs themselves.
Oh, I don't believe in working from home. That's a scam.
By the way, the guy in that clip is Palmer Luckey, a billionaire who currently runs a weapons company. First of all, it is funny to be a hard ass about traditional corporate culture when you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt and cargo shorts. And second of all, the weapons company he currently owns makes like long-distance missiles and remote-controlled drones. So if you're following along at home, this guy doesn't think employees should be able to work remotely, but he does think that the military should be able to kill remotely. And even companies that once claimed to embrace work from home are now turning on it. Tim Cook called remote work the mother of all experiments. Now Apple is cracking down on employees who don't come in 3 days a week, report says. Yeah, it's the mother of all experiments, but the kind of mother that you resent and have gone no contact with. What if Apple announced the end of their work from home program to their employees by being like, hey, we don't let the 12-year-old Chinese children who build our products with their bare hands work from home, so why should we let you? And Apple employees are just like, shit, that's kind of a fair point. I'm just surprised you actually made it. And now this is a rant from JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon from an employee town hall where he railed against work from home.
A lot of you were on the fucking Zoom and you were doing the following, okay? Looking at your mail, sending texts to each other about what an asshole the other person is. Okay, not paying attention, not reading your stuff, and if you don't think that slows down efficiency, creativity, creates rudeness, and stuff, it does.
Not to be a stickler, but wouldn't that technically be increasing efficiency? I mean, they're on a work call while checking their email, while sending each other text messages. That's 3 birds with 1 stone.
And don't give me the shit that work from home Friday works. I call a lot of people on Friday. There's not a goddamn person to get a hold of.
Okay, he also says work from home sucks because he can't get a hold of anyone. That could also mean that they just hate you, buddy. Maybe they're genuinely busy doing their job and they just ignore your call specifically because they don't want to get yelled at by a Bond villain today.
Every area should be looking to be 10% more efficient. If I was running a department of 100 people, I guarantee you if I wanted to, I could run it with 90. And be more efficient. I could do it in my sleep. Someone told me to approve some of his wealth management that they had to go to 14 committees. And I feel like firing 14 chairmen of committees.
I love when CEOs complain about too much bureaucracy and they want to fire people to end all the bureaucracy, but they're never talking about themselves. It's like, if you really want to cut back on the bureaucracy, quit. And that's my main problem. Like, whenever bosses complain about people working from home, the complaint is always about employees not doing their job. And it's like, isn't making sure the employees are doing their job your job? They never take any personal responsibility. It's like, maybe you're mismanaging them. It's not working from home that's the problem, it's you. Like, I once worked an office job where we did a trial period of working from home, and my boss was so paranoid that we weren't doing our jobs that he had me do like a Google sheet in real time that I was constantly updating, saying what I was doing so he could verify that I was doing my job. And to be clear, he didn't want me to like type it all out in advance so he knew what I was doing. And he didn't want me to retroactively fill it in. He wanted me in real time to be filling out this Excel spreadsheet so he could see what I was doing in real time. And it's like, dude, if I'm doing this spreadsheet, then I'm not doing my job. I can't do any part of my job because I'm too busy filling out the spreadsheet that tells you that I'm doing my job. But the anti-work from home rhetoric is not slowing down. In fact, it's kind of ramping up. Check out this article from the Daily Mail. Swollen eyes, a hunchback, and claw-like hands. Grotesque model reveals what remote workers will look like in 70 years. Holy shit, if I continue working from home in 70 years, I'm gonna be a middle-aged woman. Crazy. While working from home was once a rare treat, it has become the norm for millions of people following the COVID-19 pandemic. But a grotesque new model may have you asking to go back into the office. Okay, well, first of all, that's where they went wrong. They made it a grotesque model. They should have just made the model hot as hell. Problem solved. left. Which leads into my second point. Second of all, they're the ones who made the model. Like, they drew the picture. They basically drew a picture of an ugly person, and then they try to be like, huh, damn, this is you. See this picture I just drew of an ugly lady? That's actually you. How crazy is that? But that's science. Where did this article even come from? Furniture at Work has revealed what homeworkers could look like by the year 2100, and it's not a pretty sight. Wait, so this model was created by an office furniture company? Gee, I wonder if they might have had ulterior motives for putting this model out there. Why is that every article now? I feel like every article has some sinister corporate agenda behind it. Like, how come every article now is like, work from home sucks, and also health insurance is overrated, kind of? And then you look up who wrote it, and it's like Jeff Bezos wearing a wig and a fake mustache. To visualize the effects of not having a proper place to work at home, Furniture at Work used scientific research and worked with healthcare experts to reveal what the remote worker of the future could look like, Furniture at Work explained. So wait a minute, they're not even saying that employees shouldn't work from home, they're just saying that when they do work from home, they should use their office furniture. This is just an ad for their product disguised as an anti-work from home take that is also disguised as good journalism. Also, not for nothing, but when it comes to creating an ugly model, I think they may have overshot it, because Anna here is not a desk chair away from being a 10. She's a hunchback with red eyes and claws. She doesn't need a better mouse pad, she needs an exorcism. Okay, but even if you want to accept the premise that this is what all work from home employees will look like in the future, I actually looked it up and I found a visual representation of what all work from office employees will look like in the future. Damn, pretty crazy, but again, that's just science, you know? And in response to a lot of this anti-work from home rhetoric that's out there, I would ask employers this. If employees working from home is the problem, then how come bringing those employees back to the office doesn't seem to be solving the problem? In fact, making employees return to the office seems to be a far bigger disruption than those employees working from home ever was. Disney's return to office mandate shows failure of imagination about how to innovate in hybrid and remote work. Disney CEO Bob Iger demanded on Monday, January 9th, that all employees return to the office for at least 4 days a week because in a creative business like ours, nothing can replace the ability to connect, observe, and create with peers that comes from being physically together. So basically, Disney says they need their employees to return to the office in order to be more creative and come up with more creative, innovative ideas. So I guess making their employees come back into the office is how Disney has been able to come up with such innovative, creative ideas like, what if we just kind of kept remaking our own movies? I don't know. And what if we did a live-action Lilo and Stitch for Disney Plus that's actually for theaters, but also when we do marketing, we only show Stitch, not live-action Lilo, even though the Stitch part is still a cartoon. Seriously, have you noticed that? They're only marketing the Stitch part of the live-action Lilo and Stitch movie, and it's like, if the whole thing is that this movie is live-action, why are you showing me Stitch, who again is the one part of this live action movie that isn't live action at all? It's not like they got a live action Stitch for this thing. So it's like, if you think the only aspect of this live action movie that audiences will be interested in is Stitch, who's not live action, then why even make a live action movie? Why not just re-release the original animated version and compensate the animators that way? And sorry, if I keep talking about this, I am gonna have an aneurysm, and ultimately Stitch is not what this video is about. So anyway, back to work from home. That's a consistent theme in a lot of these anti-work from home kind of rants and points, is that working from home stifles creativity, and we need to get everybody back into the office for innovation and creativity. But like, is that actually true? Is people working in the office like more innovative and creative somehow? A study by Microsoft similarly found that remote work weakens innovation since workers communicate less with those outside their own teams. Okay, but I will point out that that study was conducted by Microsoft, a company that might have a vested interest in making employees return to the office. On the other hand, McKinsey research points to a different conclusion. It found that during the more than 2 years of the pandemic, there's been a record number of new patents across 150 global patent filing authorities. Moreover, in 2021, global venture capital more than doubled from 2020, rising 111%. So all the CEOs are saying that when people work from home, it hurts innovation, but all the actual numbers say that innovation is on the rise when people work from home. Also, okay, just to zoom out a little bit, when employees employees are like, you need to come into the office because the office is an environment that encourages innovation. It's like, dude, are you fucking talking about this environment? Seriously, you really think this environment promotes creativity and innovation? Because I'll tell you right now, I worked in an environment like this for a few years, and the only innovative ideas that were popping into my head were innovative ways for me to fucking kill myself. And I mean that in a very chill way. Please don't report me or call my mom or anything. I'm chill. McKinsey suggests that it's because more innovative companies develop new ways of connecting remote workers together to build and sustain the cross-functional inter-team ties necessary for innovation, thus widening the pools of minds that could generate new ideas. So that actually makes sense. By working remotely, you're actually connecting to more people, because when everyone is working remotely, you're able to access anyone via like the tools of your computer. Whereas in the office, you can really only access the other people in that office. When you work from home, in theory, you can now connect with anyone anywhere because you're not limited by geography, which is just like not true when you're cramped up in an office. And that's the point I would make to Disney CEO Bob Iger if I ever ran into him. Actually, if I ever ran into Disney CEO Bob Iger, I would make the point that it doesn't make any fucking sense for you to do a live action remake and then only use the one non-live action element of the remake in the marketing. Like, they don't even put Lilo in the marketing with Stitch. It's not even like a two-hander. It's literally just Stitch. And then I'm like, why even call it Lilo and Stitch? Hey. Was I talking about Stitch again? All right, gotta put another $1 in the Stitch jar. There's a Stitch jar in my house because I'm so fucking annoying about Stitch. The point is, from an ideas and innovation standpoint, the return to the office doesn't really fix anything. And obviously, from an employee lifestyle standpoint, the return to the office is fucking devastating. And this, by the way, isn't specific to like Disney or Apple. Return to office mandates are running into roadblocks all over the place. Wi-Fi keeps going down. Donald Trump's return to office mandate is going terribly. Dozens of federal employees tell Wired the return to office order has resulted in widespread chaos, plummeting productivity, and significantly reduced services to the public. Gee, I hope this going bad doesn't turn Donald Trump into some sort of polarizing, divisive figure. Since President Donald Trump mandated that remote and partially remote federal workers all must return to their offices, thousands of employees across the country have been figuring out how to navigate new commutes, seating arrangements, and a lack of supplies as basic as toilet paper and legal pads while still getting their work done. A lack of supplies as basic as toilet paper? Okay, even as I'm arguing against return to office mandates, I've kind of assumed that those offices would at least have toilet paper. Like, I didn't even work that into my thinking. In fact, not having toilet paper seems like we've kind of moved beyond the work from home debate into like a whole other thing that I don't have the time to get into now. If you go back into the office and there's no toilet paper there, that's like a whole other problem. One effect of all this, many federal employees tell Wired, is that they are traveling long distances to spend all their time in virtual meetings. So even when you're in the office, a bulk of your meetings are still virtual. Employers nowadays are just like, innovation doesn't happen when you're talking to people on a computer screen. Innovation happens when you're talking to people on a computer screen while in an office that has no toilet paper. That's where you can come up with the great ideas like, what if we had toilet paper? Multiple government employees claim that there isn't enough space in federal offices or necessary equipment to make their return worthwhile. Yeah, this is another benefit of work from home. When employees work from home, they're working from home. You don't have to worry about stuff like toilet paper or Wi-Fi, because it's like, that's the employee's problem because that's their home. It actually takes a bunch of stuff off your plate and in theory would allow you to just focus on the work. I gotta say though, as Donald Trump problems go, making employees return to the office seems pretty low on the list, but it's not nothing. I was forced to return to the office, but the commute and childcare became a logistical nightmare. I had to quit. That's another benefit of work from home. It allows you to access employees that you otherwise wouldn't be able to access. Like, I don't know, parents who need to be able to supervise their kids or people who live a long commute away. By having remote work in place, you can get the best employees regardless of those employees' geographic location or current lifestyle. The commute is another thing that always frustrated me when I was working in the office, because like, you just realize that when you work in an office and commute into an office specifically, just how much time is not your own. Like, if you work a 9 to 5, really that's an 8 to 6 because you have an hour of commute on either end. Also, you're not paid for that commute, duh, but then you're also not paid for lunch, and a lot of times your lunch is in the middle of the day and it's an hour. And I remember asking my boss one time, I was like, why is lunch unpaid? And my boss was like, lunch lunch is unpaid because that time is totally yours. And then I was like, well, okay, if the time is mine, could I just take my time at the end of the day so I can leave an hour early? And my boss was like, absolutely fucking not. And don't talk to me about like employee laws or they have to give you a lunch break here and not there. I don't care, all right? That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that going into the office basically creates like many other hours of work for you that you're not compensated for. Look, I also don't buy this thing that like by making employees come back into the office, that's like good for office culture. Because like what kind of culture are you cultivating when it's full of a bunch of people who don't want to fucking be there? So at this point you might be thinking, wait, if returning to the office is hurting employees and it's not even helping company innovation, then why would all these companies be pushing so darn hard to make their employees return to the office? Working from home could wipe $800 billion from office values globally. And there it is. That's the real problem at the root of all this. These companies don't care about their employees working in the office because, it's better for innovation. They care because, like, they already paid for the office. It's like a money real estate problem that they're making an employee lifestyle culture problem. And you know what? Just say that, all right? Just be honest. Miss me with all this, like, we need you in the office to innovate bullshit. Just look me in the eye and say, we need you in the office because we already paid for the office and we're embarrassed. We're so very embarrassed because we have all these offices and no one's in there. That was my impression of every CEO ever. Pretty good. I feel good about it. Hybrid work is here to stay, McKinsey said. Urban real estate in superstar cities around the world faces substantial challenges. Okay, why do they call them superstar cities? As if the journalist is the city's mom and the city's just made honor roll. They're superstars. McKinsey looked most closely at 9 superstar cities with a disproportionate share of the world's urban gross domestic product, namely Beijing, Houston, London, New York, Paris, Munich, San Francisco, Shanghai, and Tokyo. The estimated $800 billion in valuation losses in those cities represents a 26% decline from 2019 levels. In a more severe scenario, the value of office space could fall by as much as 42%, the consultancy said. No, not the value of office space falling. Please, God, no, fuck. Anything but that. I'll go back and work in the office. I swear. Just don't let the value of the office fall. I'm sobbing by the windowsill. My fiance is like, why are you crying? I'm just like, I'm crying because the value of commercial real estate is falling below 2019 levels. And you'd know that if you understood me literally at all. And you might be thinking, wait, Robert, you have a fiance? And it's like, no, not anymore, because I had to call off the engagement because she didn't understand how upset I was about office real estate falling below 2019 levels, If she wanted to, she would care about the value of office real estate falling below 2019 levels. What if I did this bit for like 2 hours? All right, back to the article. Those challenges could imperil the fiscal health of cities, many of which are already straining to address homelessness, transit needs, and other pressing issues. Wait a minute. These cities are straining to address homelessness? And because of remote work, they have all these empty office buildings? Okay, bear with me here. What if they just let all the homeless people live in the empty office buildings? And then, after the homeless people get off the streets, they'll get back on their feet and they'll need jobs, and then you could hire them and they work for you, and because you do remote work, they'll work from home, but because they live in the office buildings, they'll work from the office. So boom, you got it. You filled the office buildings, you solved homelessness, and you have people working from the office again. It's called playing the long game. Voila. But look, even though I am on the side of working from home being good for everyone, like there is one point that work from home detractors make that I do kind of agree with.
I also completely defend your right to say, I don't want to. But I don't defend your right to tell me what JP Morgan's going to do. So you have a free market. You can do one thing, I can do another, this one. That's what's called a free market.
You don't have to work there. Like, that kind of sounds stupid, but that is actually a good point. It's like, do I think JP Morgan sucks for making their employees come back into the office? Yeah, I do. That's why I don't work for JP Morgan. And also because I'm like so fucking bad at math and I didn't get good grades and I didn't graduate from a good college. And even if hypothetically I was willing to come into the office every day, JP Morgan would still probably be like, nah, we're good, man. But the point is, like, JP Morgan, Disney, Apple, the government, government. If working from home is important to you, that's fine. I support it, but then just like don't work for those companies. And if you decide that like working for Disney is more important to you than working from home, that's fine, but like that's not Disney being unfair, that's you making a choice. Like there is also a level of personal accountability here on the employee side that is important. It's like if you want to like work from home and that's number one to you, there are plenty of companies that would let you do that. But if like working for JP Morgan or Disney or one of these kind of like big name companies is more important to you than that, that's totally fine, but then that's your choice, you know? And by the way, this is not specific to work from home either. Like if your company has a policy in place that hurts your lifestyle, just fucking quit. By the way, that's my response to like 90% of like employee complaints. Quit. Just quit immediately. I got talked over in a meeting. Leave the meeting, never come back, quit. My boss is whatever your boss is, quit the job. No matter what. Oh, the break room that's not your break room anymore because you're gonna quit. You're gonna quit and walk out to the life that you've always wanted. Oh, and also not to fly in the face of my personal accountability point I just made, but I take no personal responsibility for anyone who takes my advice just now, quits their job, and it ruins their life. Not my fault. Sorry. I'm just kind of saying stuff. But the point is, it's so easy to blame these corporations for literally everything that sometimes, and only sometimes because they're still really bad, but sometimes we wind up blaming them for our own decisions. So when you try to look at it from their perspective, like maybe these corporations don't actually hate us, you know? Maybe they just have a different perspective on what would best enrich all our lives and help us to find a little bit of happiness in this crazy world. Google co-founder says 60-hour work week the sweet spot for productivity. Okay, never mind. These corporations hate us. They hate our fucking guts. They want you fucking dead. They want me fucking dead. Like, not only do they not want you working from home, apparently they don't want you going home ever. They just want you to work in your cubicle in their office until you collapse, and then they hurl you off the balcony and bring some other poor sucker in there. And on that note, that's the end of the video. Damn, I could have sworn I had a really heartwarming and uplifting ending to this thing, but nope. Just all of us dying as a collective in a cubicle and then being thrown over a balcony. So, like and subscribe.